Into the Shadowsphere. Welcome to the Shadowsphere, where the whispered truth comes in loud and clear. Laugh in the dark as the clues appear. Yeah, we shine that light in the Shadowsphere.
Thanks for tuning in and welcome to the Shadowsphere. Scals, hit record.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Shadowsphere. I am here today with the number one Flyers fan on the planet, KC Ward. I am totally kidding. He's a huge Penguins fan, but I had to say that. How are you doing, my guy? And welcome to the Shadowsphere.
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much for having me, Shadow. Appreciate it.
I love that. I think that's a Crosby jersey back there, and it looks like you're sitting on Lemieux.
I have so that's a signed Sid one, and then there's a Brian Rust one to the left. And then the last game my wife and I went to, I have my Yager one on my back.
Oh, Yager, even better.
Yeah, I've worn it for like entrance gear a bunch of times, so it's a fun one to have.
Hell yeah! So for those of you that don't know, I am currently in the process of interviewing deathmatch wrestlers, and Casey Moore happens to be one of them. He fights out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. How is it different down there than up in Canada when you come here?
Oh man. I wouldn't even say it's different. There's a lot of things that are the same. I mean, it's when I wrestle in Pittsburgh and in Pennsylvania and like the other deathmatch companies that I've worked for, it's a lot of the same, like crowd involvement, intensity, just a lot of in your face and just a lot of fun interaction. Like it doesn't matter if you're cheering or booing, it really doesn't really matter to me. I'm out there for one goal, and that's to inflict as much violence as I can and have my own sick, sadistic version of fun. But I'd say it's more alike than different, definitely.
I got the pleasure of watching you a few weeks back at my first personal in the live event at Canadian Deathmatch Crazy 8. I watched many hours online, seen clips, but watching it live and in person, a whole different thing. You coming out because I'm not going to sit here and bullshit you. I had no idea who you were until that day. So to see a hockey fanatic come out, being a Pittsburgh fan, but throwing up that old school Flyers mentality of the Broad Street Bully, it was just kind of like contrasting.
Yeah, you don't want to just stick to one team. It's an era. It's the Goon era. It's the era of the Enforcer. It's pulling inspiration from guys from, Bob Probert, the whole way through, Nails and like a bunch of really, really great fighters and instigators of the game, and in Pittsburgh too, we had great guys like Eric Goddard, George LaRocque. Like, I know he's a little cursed, but Matt Cook could throw them as well. Just don't talk about Evander Kane.
You say the Enforcer era. I mean, that was up until about, I'd say, the mid to late 2000s. I grew up in Western Canada. I actually went to the high school Wade Belak went to. Also homegrown talent Corey Schwab, if you remember him, New Jersey Devil at the time when they won the Cup in 2004. I grew up in that area of the country, and so the Enforcers, Wade was loved in that city. But like my son never knew what the hell deathmatch wrestling was at all because he doesn't pay attention. He's not a big wrestling fan, but my other son who was with me. But my oldest son, seeing you come out and hockey, kind of like piqued his interest a bit. Yeah, and he was super into your match.
Hell yeah, appreciate it. It's really cool. It's a fun opportunity working up in Canada, and the first couple of times I've gone out there, it's just a really fun exercise of playing to a new audience and making new fans, making new connections, and just having sick matches.
Have you ever, I'm assuming you fought in Philly at this point in time.
Yeah. 880 was down there for WrestleMania. We ran a show down there, and the fourth line faced the Ugly Sucklings. It was Rob Killjoy and Mike. It was a lot of fun.
Now, your tag team partner in fourth line is Brandon St. James. Known passion lover there in hockey. I've seen some promos you guys have cut on the old school style Duck stuff, but I don't know, man. How do you guys do it? Like, what drove you guys? What's your connection?
It's hockey and punk. So I remember back to like the very early days of training when 880 opened in August of 22. Brandon joined us in September, a few weeks after like we officially opened the doors. And I don't know, one of us was probably wearing like a hockey shirt or a band shirt or something along those lines of getting to know each other. And it just naturally blossomed. He credits beer league hockey in the Pittsburgh area for creating a new social circle when he moved to Pittsburgh in the first place. And so I run in a lot of those similar circles. And so he ended up joining up with my beer league team that I've been playing with in the area for the last 10 years. So we legitimately play like beer league hockey together. And I don't know, a lot. It comes together naturally. You love it when a plan comes together.
I love that. And I spoke to you a little bit before we went on the air here for this. You said you had coached hockey. You played hockey your entire life as well?
I started playing probably when I was like 10 or 11. But yeah, I hit the ground running from there. I avidly played deck hockey throughout high school and early into college at a pretty high competitive level. I played ice hockey for a long time too. Still play beer league now. And then I was the assistant coach of a middle school, like 12 to 14 hockey team.
So I'm a hockey dad. You're a hockey coach. I need to ask your opinion. What do you think of this Little Caesars program that's being built right now?
I don't really know. I don't really know a whole lot about it. I got out of the coaching like 2 years ago, but okay. I know like there's certain conglomerations of rinks and like some shadiness going on there. And I just hope that youth programs get the love and attention that they deserve. I mean, it's for the love of the game. There shouldn't really be like a high cost of barrier of entry. And that's such a huge problem in hockey to begin with. So, to have it more accessible to everyone and actually building a culture of like, it's back to its roots of just hockey and having fun.
I think that's what we're running into a problem right now. I mean, realistically, excuse me, we're in sort of, Jesus, I'm apologizing. We're in sort of a Great Depression in a sense right now in our economies. And we have hockey families coming out left and right. Hockey is a hell of an expensive game up here. I don't know what the cost is like in the States. Right now, there's a couple, like, I know there's a AAA team up here that average this season is $10,000.
Wow.
There's so many kids being left behind because their parents can't afford it.
I mean, that's why I got my first job when I was like 15 or 16 was to really start helping to pay for it. And throughout the summers, I learned to caddy golf. I lifeguarded for a brief period of time. And then I worked in the music industry for a long time as a stagehand. And so I would have to come up with at least like $2,000 or $3,000 in the summer for my hockey funds. So it was definitely not $10,000, but like the programs are a lot smaller out where I am in the suburbs, but.
Right. So like, I don't know if you listen to Spit and Chit podcast at all. Mm-hmm. They did an interview, I think about a month or two ago now with Brock Lesnar.
Oh shit.
And he's a hockey dad now in Canada.
Yeah.
And when a multimillionaire tells you that hockey is becoming a rich man's game, there's a problem.
Yeah. For sure.
So I got to ask, you're living in Pennsylvania. You're a huge Penguins fan. You're a wrestler. What drove you to wrestling in the first place?
It became accessible to me. I remember, I grew up in the 90s. So when I was, 6 or 7 years old, it was the Monday Night Wars. And I was watching that with my dad, my older brother, and my sister. Loved wrestling throughout like the 2000s and everything like that. And, there was a period of time, probably like 2013, 2014, where I was just, occupied with growing up and other things. But I would say, and like, me watching wrestling again was directly tied to CM Punk coming back in AEW. I remember buying the pay-per-view and watching the last couple weeks of TV, and then starting with the Last Dance, whatever the show was, the first Rampage that they did in Chicago where he debuted. But I went back and watched that, and my girlfriend at the time, my wife now, she was pretty confused. She was like, "Watching wrestling? Yeah, you haven't done that before. We've been together for like 6 or 7 years. That's a little new." And every now and then, like I'd watch like an old match on YouTube from like, Sting or any of like the guys that I really liked. But, it wasn't, my active, like, this is my thing, like hockey is. And so watched AEW, started getting back into like wrestling, watching full time. And then we got engaged in 2021 in Orlando and ended up seeing our first live wrestling show was an AEW dark taping that ended up lining up with our trip. And so that was the first time we'd see wrestling live in person. And we were both just like so hooked. It was, it was fun to watch on TV, watching her fall in love with it too. And then when we went to our first show together, it was just like, yeah, this is the thing to do. Like the main event was a street fight between Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela. And, Allison still talks about it to this day of like one of her favorite matches. It's like going to a hockey game for the first time and like the noise, the fan experience and everything like delivering on stage too. Like it was rad. And so before we even went home, we bought tickets to a local indie. They had the Hardys on there. I think RVD was on it. It was like a highlight all-star show. And so we kind of unlocked indie wrestling in Pittsburgh, and then finding out through like a couple shows happening in our area in July of 2022, MV Young had his first show in New Kensington. And then he was opening a school in like a couple blocks away within like 2 or 3 weeks. So there was an article in the paper. It was like spread around online. And then from seeing, the show that MV had in July, I was there day one when they opened the doors because it was 15 minutes from my house. I was starting to get into the scene and figured no better time than now.
Fair enough. And then, so you work exclusively, well, you can't say exclusively, but your home base, if you will, is 880.
Yeah. Yep.
And so everything you just told me is very contrast to what the hell you actually do, from my knowledge.
Okay.
How the hell do you go from traditional to rebirth of ECW, basically?
Yeah. I was also an ECW kid. So like growing up, like our video game system in my house was a Sega Dreamcast. And so my older brother and I played Hardcore Revolution like to death. And it's one of the worst wrestling games that like people talk about now, like it's not like any of the Aki games or anything like that, but it's what I had and it's what was accessible. And I do have memories of like watching, some original ECW on TNT and Spike. And then when it became WWECW, like I knew of it and was familiar, but like the One Night Stand, like that, I remember watching that pay-per-view and like, Sandman's entrance and everything. Like I later, when I was in college, had access to certain parts of the internet where I could go back in time and watch some stuff. I have access to, the full pay-per-view library of ECW. So like, there's a lot of love for different eras of wrestling that I've watched. And yeah.
So maybe this comes with the hockey and you just love the punishment, but how do you get yourself going like into that mindset before you got a match?
Oh, dude. I don't know. It's just a switch that's flipped. It's something that feels natural. Like it feels instinctual. It's never been a question in my mind where it's like, I don't think I've had a match, or like at least my experience in pro wrestling has never been like, I don't think I can do this. I can't wait to get through that fucking curtain. I can't wait to go out there and do my thing and just feel the moment. There's a lot of wrestling that needs to feel natural and should be reactionary. And that is definitely like a place that I like to live in. I don't know. It just feels natural to me.
Because you play competitive hockey, do you think that you thrive in those environments because you're used to that pressure? You're used to that crowd excitement, that it just comes natural to you? Absolutely.
That's something that we've talked about at 880 at length. Like Brandon has a background in sports also. So, it resonates with us with, we don't like things to be sugar-coated. When we went through our initial training, we were training 4 or 5 days a week after work from at least, 5 o'clock till 10 p.m., 11 p.m., midnight till they kick us out sometimes. And it was boot camp at its core. Looking back on it now, we were drilled to our, drilled our brains out. We were running around the block until we puked. Like it was rough, but it was that bonded experience through the core of us, the Steel City Killers, the first 5 students out of 880. We built this camaraderie that, you only build naturally from surviving some shit together. And then through the end of our training is when we started Thursday night fights also. So we were about 6 months in, and like 3 or 4 show experience, 3 or 4 shows we had experience with before starting the weekly episodic TV. But through crazy amount of training in a short amount of time, and it only continued, we added in weekly TV reps. So we had this crazy schedule for a bunch of like year 1 wrestlers that we gained years worth of experience, through our own little hyperbolic time chamber, if that reference hits.
Yeah. So you've been going now 5 years from the sounds of it.
My debut was January 23.
23. Okay, so 3 years deep now.
Yeah.
Biggest name you
But it feels like 5.
Right, maybe. I mean, why not? Everything seems to be a lot slower nowadays for some reason. I'm sure you might be like me and have theories on that, but who's the biggest name you fought to date?
Biggest name that I've fought to date.
Now, I'm not like, I don't necessarily mean like a legend or anything like that. Just the biggest name.
Yeah. I would say probably Gory. He's a Pittsburgh area guy, long-standing IWC guy. In tags, like I said, Brandon and I have worked TME, the main event, a couple of times. Kings of the District, we are in a match with them, and Darius Carter. We also have, those are Enjoy Wrestling matches. So that's also based in Pittsburgh, where we're very prevalent on there. But I've had a couple matches with Beastman. Now that I'm running through the 880 hardcore title, hoping there's a couple more there. Oh, the best one comes to mind, a show that I booked. In August of last summer, we ran a show in Cleveland at Great Lakes Brewery in Cleveland, Ohio. And the main event was a Cleveland street fight of Fourth Line versus Vandal 48, Atticus and Otis Coker.
Oh, yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Now, Fourth Line isn't strictly just deathmatch, and neither are you, right? You're still traditional in a sense too?
Yeah.
Okay. Just trying to understand, because I'm still learning a lot about you as I go, right? So this is new to me. And
oh, dude, of course.
Can't help but notice, and I've kind of peeped at this a few times. You're wearing a VG hat, Violent Gentleman.
Yes. Love VG.
Love that. I have a sticker somewhere. I used to have a sweater. I don't know what happened to it.
Check on your teammates.
My kid probably stole it, to be honest with you. So you've come up here. Who is your biggest rival up in Canada so far?
I have 2 of them, and I will have my second match with him on this upcoming Thursday. But I have a pretty good rivalry against Matt Cash. It's currently 1-1 in our series, but it's definitely not finished there. We had worked at the Crazy 8 tournament where you were, where we had met, and we had a rematch. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. It was everything I expected it to be. Just hard hitting and, just not giving up, and it's the last man standing. We had the opportunity to have a rematch in Pittsburgh about 2.5 weeks later. That was, what was the date? It would have been April 25th.
Oh, Pittsburgh versus Canada, right?
Yeah.
I think Jesse Mack went down for that as well.
Yes. Yep. Jesse had a match on that show also. Yeah. Matt and I were in the main event that night.
That's awesome. I love that when shit like that works the way it does.
Yeah. That one's on YouTube for free. I can link it.
I thoroughly enjoyed the match with you and Matt. I posted the highlights, I think, almost immediately. You're one of the first ones I did.
Yeah, that was sick. That was a great highlight reel that you cut up there.
I used this term with Hardcore in the interview earlier in the season with him here. I said it's a human demolition derby. Is the best way to describe the Crazy 8 that I went to. And I can only imagine that's what it is on a nightly basis in deathmatch in general. Like,
That's the best way I describe it to anyone that needs an introduction to deathmatch wrestling. It's, have you ever watched a car crash before, a human demo derby, like, you know, a train wreck you can't look away from, but in the best possible sense. Like it's not just sensationalism, at least in my wrestling and the way that I was trained and taught and believe in, is that there's still a story to be told. And I think that's something that Matt and I did pretty well, considering that, you know, you were there for the first time and maybe there was 1 or 2 promos for social media and that was it. And, you know, first time seeing me, I feel like, you know, mission accomplished. We're telling a story out there.
You drew in, like I said, my wife, my 2 older boys, because I have 4 kids and I only brought my older 2. We were drawn into the event from start to finish. You know, the beginning with Brandon and Tyler. That was my first that was my kid's first introduction to live. It's my wife's first introduction to any of it. My first introduction to live.
Dude, and that's a crazy rivalry. Like going back on their history from their show at Sneaky D's, like the finish to that match, and then now Arrow's return back. Like, dude, I'm glad Brandon's my teammate. Like I've only had to face him. I think like we've only had 1 or 2 matches together or against each other. And dude, working with Brandon is a cheat code on its own. Like his wrestling IQ is through the roof, but like dude's fucking amazing. But like he is sick.
I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I understand the business from your guys' standpoint, because I don't. I'm on the outside. I do this. But from what I've gathered over the 5 years that I've been doing this, and learning about wrestlers and stuff like that, is guys like you and him, great to talk. Like you talk and you get everybody hating you the way you need to, and then you bring that energy the way you need to. And like, I don't understand that psychology because I'm not in your boots, but I'm starting to learn a little bit as I go of how things work and how things don't.
Yeah.
But you two both knew how to draw a crowd in to force that energy to make you the ultimate bad guy in a moment where it probably wasn't as serious as it was. And then boom, now you're the fucking epitome of an asshole in that sense.
When both of us walk into a building that's not in Pittsburgh, we love to be hated. And we want you to love to hate us and love that you hate us. You know, Brandon is just so good at getting under people's skin without, you know, you could look at someone and know exactly what to say to them to instantly get you to hate them. And like, it's not something that crosses the line. It's not low hanging fruit. You know, it's just the way that you can look at somebody and just be as serious. And I don't know how he does it, but I feel like I do it with my own flavor, but we're not a friendly duo whenever we leave Pittsburgh, to say the least.
So, by no means you have to answer this question. Casey War, real name, character name?
Character.
Okay.
Like now, 50%.
But you have a hard time. I ask this to everybody, and again, I'm not trying to make Shadowsphere an interview session, but like, there's questions I got to ask because I'm getting to know you. This is how you get to know people. Do you have a hard time separating Casey War from your everyday life
No.
Or is it just done? His switch. Simple as the light switch behind me, just on and off, gone.
Yeah, it's pretty much that. There's so much of it that is based on reality. You know, you could say a lot of my aggression that I can translate into my life outside of wrestling is that I've cut a promo on every bad boss that I've ever had. And that's something that's always fueled me of, you know, just being able to stare down the barrel of someone in the eye and tell them how you really feel. You know, everyone's wanted to be in that scenario. But I think wrestling's a game of ego, and I've seen enough of it in professional sports, high-level sports, in other industries to where I know that being a dick is a conscious choice, and it's harder to get called back to anywhere if you're going to be a dick. So it's making the simple choices of being good to work with, being professional, and then knowing that, you know, we all have a job to do whenever we walk into any given building, is that I want to do that to the best of my abilities and to make the people happy that brought me in there to do it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Now, you brought up playing old school video games back in the day. Are you still a video game player?
Oh, dude, I have a Nintendo 64 down to my right here. Before I went on vacation, I had picked one up from a friend that's a retro reseller, and I had never had an N64 growing up. So I'm familiar with like console modding and doing some hands-on things. I'm pretty handy when it comes to that. So I have a Summer Cart 64 plugged into it. So I have flash storage to just play the entire library. I have a few ROM hacks for some other N64 wrestling engine games. So that's a lot of fun.
So what you're saying is if I manage to get my hands on a PS2, send it to you. All the those raw games to kind of go back to. Okay.
I know enough to be handy. Yeah. I as a wedding gift from my brother, made him the world's most expensive Dreamcast and gave it like every upgrade hardware mod that you can think of. So
I love that. Are you a modern gamer or are you more of the retro?
Both. I have a gaming PC that I'm on here. I was just playing Far Far West earlier today. Whenever I travel, my wife and I just came back from Disney for a week for her birthday. I have a Android handheld emulator machine, so it plays anything up to GameCube really, really well. So I use that as like my streaming device and then my emulator machine when I'm traveling. And then I have my N64 that I just mentioned. I'm starting to kind of build a bigger collection of original hardware that I can add flash storage to, like having a happy medium of modern with original hardware. Right. But yeah.
What's your you're a hockey fan? What's your go-to NHL?
I mean, 96, right?
96,
you play the Genesis one, right?
I'm more of 04. 03,
Yeah.
04. I think those two games.
03, 04?
Really,
okay.
I think that's where it really...
It's that one, and then an obscure PS1 one that I had growing up, and that was NHL Rock the Rink. It was 3-on-3 arcade style, very similar to like NFL Blitz. I can't remember who the developer
NHL
was.
Hit. Love that.
It's very similar to that. Yeah.
I love
it.
It's
called Rock the Rink.
I know what Rock the Rink is. I think I've played it like a handful of times.
It had wild like original soundtrack too that were like weird hockey theme songs. Like they're hella funny.
I still think everybody's main go-to though when you ask like anybody is Blades of Steel. I think that's
yeah.
At least if you're a '90s kid, anyway.
I see that in arcade bars a lot. I love arcade games. I have a Ms. Pac-Man that's like to my right, a couple feet that I brought back.
Oh, everything for a quarter. Sorry.
Yeah, I love arcade games too. That's a big thing that my wife and I like to do is seek out arcade bars. But yeah, I always see Blades of Steel in arcades pretty commonly.
Now, you say you have a 64 to the right of you. I got to ask, because you said it's modded. Do you play Conker's Bad Fur Day?
That is actually one of the ones that's in rotation right now. I've never played it. I had the rare replay for Xbox One. Never played it. Never got around to that one. But yeah, I'm probably like 2.5 hours into it. I think I just got through like the bowl. I'm
very much a believer that game was way ahead of its time.
Oh yeah. I know a lot. I know enough about it to know its history. Yeah, it was
sought after 64 games out there.
It was the game that like if your friends had it, you knew that their parents weren't paying attention, and then
and you got the one
squirrel, it's cute. Yeah. And then you see a sunflower that is quite endowed.
Right?
It's a fun game. I like that kind of humor, so I can laugh at my own farts.
It's definitely a good game to play. Maybe not in today's world because it is the way it is, but it's the epitome of the 90s.
Yeah, I think that's a really great description of it.
Okay. So you're playing Far Far West on PC right now, you said?
Yeah, I just bought that one yesterday, so that's just like quick drop into.
So when you're not working and you're not beating the shit out of people, what are you doing?
I have my beer league hockey team, so if I don't have any bookings on the weekend, I do that.
That qualifies as beating the shit out of people, though. Come on.
Yeah, fair. Then I guess the other one too. I go to my fair share of punk concerts. So growing up in a mosh pit is something that's very familiar to me.
Are you born and raised in Pittsburgh, like through and through,
yeah.
or you're in Fort? No, you're just okay.
Yeah.
Damn. I know my wife is a huge Penguins fan, like huge. We have a signed Malkin, a signed Crosby jerseys that she says if I ever sell, she's gonna throw me down a flight of stairs for.
My wife and I have a really solid signed puck and jersey collection that's upstairs. One of my favorite pieces that we got for each other, we both got each other jerseys. She's a huge Pascal Dupuis fan, so I found a group on Facebook that was for game used equipment. And so I have the last season of the Mellon Arena, 2008, 2009, I believe, their second set away jersey. That's his. And there's like dried blood on it. And it's like really, really fucking cool. And then for my birthday, one of the years, she got me a signed retro Timu Solani jersey. So he was one of my favorite players growing up.
Love that. Timu is such an icon.
Absolute legend.
I grew up Toronto. I grew up Toronto, which means I'm a Leaf fan. Don't worry.
I'm so sorry.
Me too.
Enjoy your draft pick, I guess.
I mean, I'm wearing Chicago because I love original six. Except Boston and Montreal, they can go themselves. Detroit, I love the history. Chicago, I love the history. Boston, obvious for reasons. They're just, and Montreal for obvious reasons. New York is okay. I can deal with them. But I meant to reference this as we also have a Vegas Fleury jersey. I was never able to get my hands on Pittsburgh's Fleury jersey, but I still have his first year Vegas jersey.
That's sick.
Which is huge, right? And
my wife and I are still both huge fans of Marc-Andre. She had an interaction with him.
Right? There's nobody better.
He's a class act. Like Allison had an interaction with him at her job that she worked at, the Pittsburgh Aviary. The family was a long-time donator and sponsor, and she just went up and said, "Hey, thank you for your support." And like she talked to him for like 10 minutes and said he was just so down to earth, so nice, and like just one of those people when you talk to them one-on-one, they make you feel listened, like really, really good, like make you feel heard, great conversationalist, just like very genuine at their core. And like I feel like you don't have those interactions too common, at least like don't meet your fucking heroes. But meet Marc-Andre Fleury if you ever have the chance. He's a sweetheart.
I've never had it, but I've literally watched him from the juniors up. Obviously, Canada. He's played for our World Juniors and all the way. Never, like I said, I'm not a big Penguins guy, but yes, I'm a Leaf fan. But I'm also the kind of guy that I appreciate talent on other teams. I don't like Boston, but I can respect what Pastrnak does.
Yeah.
I don't like Montreal. I can respect what Caulfield's doing. Like,
I don't respect Alex Ovechkin because he shoots from one spot. I only say that as a Penguins fan. I will say, like, in his last games in Pittsburgh, he did get a lot of praise from the crowd, and so like I appreciate a good response, like a good classy response to a very talented like player that will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Just from the rivalry, I have to just work that jab in there. But like I
think naturally that just comes right? For 20 years cheering against the guy to the last year now being well, I guess he's okay.
The retirement tour thing, like it's cool. It's cool to see him like mature quite a bit because the early 2010s, mid 2010s, that the rivalry and just the scene, the NHL spotlight on guys like Ovi, Sid, Gino, Patrice Bergeron, so many names that you could throw into that class. But like, he was a shit starter. He wasn't afraid to get physical, get in your face, and then just score one of the sickest releases of all time. So like, yeah, you love to hate him.
I don't think we'll, at least from what I can see coming and what I've seen in the last 10 years, we're never going to see hockey players like Sid and Ovi where they do it all.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And like the game has certainly changed as well. And you can see that through like player development. You see like the conversations that were being had of like, is Connor McDavid the next Sidney Crosby? Well, aside from the fact that he can't win a cup, it's two different styles of play. There's areas of their games where are just so elite and so refined is that you can't recreate such natural talent, but also the work ethic that goes along with it. You have someone who's so freakishly talented, but will still work every day of the fucking week. Like, you've heard of the summers where, all right, Sid had piss poor face-off numbers and worked on face-offs all summer, and he was above 50% for like how many consecutive years. You don't have players, doing that publicly, but also I would say through like, I've seen a lot more training videos of a younger, like Connor Bedard and some of the crazy training camps that have come through, like even with McDavid. Is it the body armor camp? There's a couple camps that skate in the summer. Like I know Marchand and Crosby skate at it. A lot of the Cole Harbor guys skate at it. But I can't remember what it is, but you have these pro camps that play in the summer along with like the beauty league too. You know, you have guys that are working really, really hard that just want it. And it's a changed game, but you know, evolution is what makes it great. You see like Sid's first season of him getting, you know, his teeth knocked out by the Flyers, and you look at how they won the cups through 08-09 and then like through the next the 15 to 17 ones. The game just completely changed and they adapted and excelled at it.
100%. Now, again, not a Pittsburgh guy. Love Mario.
Yep. Love
him. I stand by this when I say this, and anybody that asks me, I do not consider Wayne Gretzky the great one. I don't care how many records he holds. I do not appreciate what he's ever done. I don't care. Mario was always that player for me. It was never Wayne. And I feel like if Mario didn't get sick and actually had the consistency and the protection that Wayne had, there would be a very different conversation right now.
I agree. I mean, yeah, obviously Wayne had a Proby. So, or no, I'm sorry. Holy shit. What's his name?
Who didn't he have?
Yeah. So in that era, like
McSorley, that's what you're thinking.
Marty McSorley. Thank you. Holy shit. Yeah. If there was that tough guy to go along to be that 1-2 punch, the Penguins didn't play that way, or at least like they didn't insulate Mario that way. He created so much space on his own and then let other guys do the work too. He was a great playmaker, a great developer, but like the ability to finish, just unreal. And yeah, everyone talks about the health concerns and like the difference in games played between Wayne and Mario are just like insane. So if you break it down to like a per game rate, it's pretty close.
I had the honor or distinction, I guess, if you will, of one day I was in Edmonton and I went to a signing for Wayne, and I had something at the time, and this is again never my hero, just something. He was a hockey player, but he refused to sign what I brought, and he made my dad buy something in order for him to sign, and that's the day I lost all respect for Wayne.
That's some shit you only hear out of like wrestling company A guy won't sign something from wrestling company B, you know?
Wayne has never been somebody I idolized. I never looked up to him. I was never in the driveway playing as Wayne Gretzky. No shot. I was never that just wasn't hockey to me.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, that's very un-Canadian. I was like, I don't give a fuck. I don't care about that. I don't like the guy. I never have.
So there you go. For every Marc-Andre Fleury, there's a Wayne Gretzky, right? Don't meet your fucking heroes. But that's the gamble, right? Like, can you appreciate the artist from afar? Is it worth trying to idolize someone like that? I don't know. But you have guys setting great examples again, like Sidney Crosby. I think he's done a tremendous amount for the sport of hockey. Like he's one of the best ambassadors for the game.
We said a couple minutes ago now, you'll never see a player like Sid. I think the closest you'll get is Nate.
Yeah. Oh, dude, for sure.
And like, I think that's the only way you see someone that close.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, it's so cool that they're from the same area. They have such a great relationship. Like, you know, selfishly, I would love, you know, for them to play on the same team. So, you know, watching international hockey, we all get a taste of that and wish, you know, could get that full time. But yeah, dude, those Cole Harbor boys are something else, huh?
Yeah, with you being ousted by the dreaded Flyers for you, I have to ask, is this the end of the trio?
I hope not, man. It's been my entire experience watching hockey growing up has been watching Chris Letang, Gino, and Sid play together. Like the three-headed monster is just unfucking real. Like I recognize how fortunate we are as fans to see this core group stick together, have the success that they've had together. And now, even still, like when they were actively winning the cups, raising the next generation, your Jake Gensels, your Brian Rusts, and like a lot of these guys and so many others that have moved on from the organization, you know, you have these guys that are in their early 30s that are elite top 6 players. So, man, I hope everything pans out, but I hope it's for the sake of giving them the proper retirement they deserve as Penguins. I think that's something that's super special to retire, from the same team that you've played at since game 1. I wouldn't be mad at him per se. I know he wants to play another year in the NHL. Obviously, we got over Yager. Different circumstances, of course, when it comes to keeping the team in the city. But obviously, he wants to play in Russia as well. He wants to play for his hometown team, Metalburg, right? If I recall correctly.
I think it's
of course. Yeah. But I know that even Ovi wants to do that as well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them show up in the K together on the same team.
Well, Ovi hasn't outright said it yet that he's done, and neither has Malkin. So, but there's a very real possibility that we look at Pittsburgh next season without Tanger, without Malkin. I don't think Sid goes anywhere. But if I'm Dubas, which I'm not because he's an idiot, I've met the guy so many times.
Look, every fan it's like a 20% chance you love your GM. It's when you're winning or you're making crazy fucking
deals. Almost an amazing AHL team, man. I got to watch them raise a cup, but he could not handle the big club.
Yeah, he fucked Toronto good, huh?
He got back. I mean, you guys got Carlson, so you're not completely off the hook on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I could see Malkin potentially ending up in Washington.
Yeah.
Just for the year to end it with Ovi. I could see Tanger going to Montreal just to retire at home.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you really want to push it and send Sid out, you have to send him to Colorado.
Yeah, and that's the destination that I would expect him to go as well. Like I said, so many people love watching, Nate and Sid play internationally, especially when they get the opportunity to line up together.
It's not fair.
Yeah, it's a fucking cheat code, but it's wild. So I would hope my boys stick together, but understanding, much like wrestling, hockey's a business. You have guys that are elite talents that are probably going to be welcomed with open arms from 30 other teams if the offer sheet's right. So I can't blame them for that. I just, selfishly, you want to see them retire with your team, but, very appreciative for everything they've done for the city of Pittsburgh and hockey.
Listen, you haven't made it as a player in the NHL until you hear Toronto somehow in on you. We have no business being in on you, but apparently we're in on you. That's when you know you've made it in the show.
Hey, thanks for Phil Kessel. We appreciate that one too.
Yeah, I love Kessel, and I loved watching him win 2 cups with you.
Oh, dude,
because at one point I made the joke he had more cups than testicles. I love Phil. I do, to this day.
And now he's like a professional poker player, so like good on him.
He's the only man I know in professional hockey that could have a fucking hot dog diet and still do what he did.
Well, dude, apparently Ovi's diet's fucking insanely shitty too. He eats like chicken Alfredo like a beast and allegedly drank Coke out of his water bottle on the bench for how many years?
But he gives guys like me and you who are bigger boys the idea that diets are bullshit.
Oh, man.
So you collect video games, or at least that's a pastime you like to do just because you like to play the nostalgic versions of the games. Now, do you collect anything else besides belts from everybody?
Yeah, I know, right? That's always convenient. Right next to my Sid jersey is my record collection. So, like I said, one of the big commonalities between Brandon St. James and I is our love of punk rock, hardcore, and a lot of that music. So that's why the Fest tag team title, the white one in the middle, is so important to us. Fest is a punk rock music festival based out of Gainesville, Florida. I can see every single band I love there in the same city, the same weekend, and I am set for concerts at home for the entire year. So to hold that belt's insanely awesome and such a huge honor. But yeah, punk rock ethos at its core. So I was like a Tony Hawk's Pro Skater kid growing up and then only expanding outward from there.
I think Tony Hawk really opened my eyes, at least, to a lot of music I wasn't familiar with.
Yeah.
Do you collect like action figures, Funko, stuff like that, or your wife? Like, do you guys collect stuff like that?
Yeah, we have a massive Funko collection over there on my right. Have a good amount of Lego sets. Most things nerdy. What else do we have over there that you mentioned? We have a collection of Disney World popcorn buckets.
Okay.
So that's been a recent one. So like we have like a Death Star shaped one. There's a
I
Stormtrooper
hate Star Wars
shaped
with a passion.
one. Yeah, we're huge Star Wars fans as well.
No, I hate it.
Oh, you hate it? Damn, fuck you.
Listen. I have a reason.
All right, fair.
I've never watched the movies in my life. Okay, so don't judge me for one. But my birthday is National Star Wars Day, and as a kid, hearing that over and over and over, it just makes you hate something.
No, I get it because my first name is Casey. It's just spelled differently. So like I heard Casey at the bat all the time, and I was like, oh, fuck this stupid fucking So I get that, but like I don't know. We were down in Star Wars Land and Disney for May the 4th. I think that's pretty fucking rad. But
listen,
I can get how that gets annoying. Like it gives you the ick from a lifelong of that bullshit. So it's fair enough.
You love it. That's on you. I'm not here to change your opinion of it. I just don't like it.
Fair enough, buddy. Fair enough.
I'm trying to think of something. Okay. So what junior teams do you follow?
Not too many. Somehow 880 got hooked up with a box of Erie Otters t-shirts. Like knowing that Connor McDavid and was Mason McTavish, maybe I can't remember, a few other like really good prospects have come through Erie. I want to make it to another Wheeling Nailers game, so that's the East Coast League again. Been to a handful of Cleveland Monsters games. We went to the outdoor game in Cleveland, and then I think we went to just a random one when we were in town in the last like year or two. But that's the thing that I was touching on about living in the States, is that I would love to have, a a shit league hockey team just to have somewhere cheap to get some beers and watch some fights. But the game isn't quite like that anymore. But it's a lack of leagues in Pittsburgh that are like that. I think one of the cool things whenever I travel to Canada is like I want to find as many minor league games that line up with wherever I'm at as possible during the seasons, and just have a good time.
Well, right now we're recording this episode on May 12th. It'll come out June 4th. Right now, if I'm correct, Baby Pens and the Baby Leafs are still very deep in a Calder Cup playoff run.
Yeah.
And if they do well in their respective division finals, they could end up playing each other in the Eastern final.
Okay.
That might be
I'd
something
down for that.
down for, because I know the wife, again, being a Pittsburgh, she's a Marlies fan at the AHL level, but she loves the Penguins. So seeing some guys that are going into the system might be good for her.
I think it might be closer for me to drive to Toronto than to Scranton.
That's crazy, because Toronto to Pittsburgh is like, I think I looked at it, it's like 7.5, 8 hours.
We did it in like 5.5.
I might be wrong. My math is bad.
Yeah, and like it depends on how long you end up at the border as well. But it takes about like 5-ish hours to get out to Scranton from Pittsburgh. Excuse me.
Jesus. I didn't think it was that far.
Yeah, so like there are some shows like Brandon and I will work out on the eastern side of Pennsylvania, and it takes just as much time to get out there as it does to like Hamilton or some of the spots in Canada we've been to. Doing those on a Sunday is a lot of fun, going into work on Monday when I'd gotten home at 2:30 in the morning.
Yeah, got some stitches happening. No, boss, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly. Keep my hat on extra a little tight after certain matches,
Without name dropping if you don't want to, but I don't recommend it because I'm not in that style of business. You have any people you don't get along with and absolutely think are a joke in the industry?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that's fair for any facet of life. I feel that way about, certain players in the NHL. You could look at guys that think that licking other people is an acceptable form of contact. There's all walks of life. I've encountered entitled adults and on the street. I've had people that I've worked with that were on my teams that I didn't get along with. I've had bad bosses. I've had, friends of, lifelong friends that they change over the years and are no longer the person you remember, and you no longer get along with them. I think that's just human nature to not see eye to eye with everyone at every given moment in time. I think what's more important is having humility and knowing when you're wrong, and then also knowing when solving a situation matters and ending a conflict.
Fair enough. If you could, being 3 years in now, maybe not the most savvy veteran yet, but what kind of advice are you giving up-and-comers that are trying to either work their way into what you're doing in deathmatch or just strictly traditional? What kind of advice?
Yeah, I mean, I still have a decent hand in the development of some of the students at 880. I still go drop into class and like talking to everyone on our shows, and like there's definitely like the couple of classes that had started after us that we talk to and bounce ideas off of regularly. But I think one of the most important things for training wrestlers that I like to really hammer home is understanding why. And that's just like the basis of wrestling psychology of why are you here? Why are you in this situation? Why are you reacting the way that you are? And just having a solid, concrete answer of those. Of wrestling at its core is generating human emotion. You're trying to elicit a response out of somebody. You have to know what and why you're trying to get that response out of a person. You have to be able to connect with them. And so it's the psychology, it's the connection, it's the human element. It's not just, I know these 6 cool moves and I can do them in any given order, and I think it's cool and I'm going to win.
Right.
That doesn't resonate with me at all.
I'm somebody that, like, I look at Wade Allen, for example. I'm more closer to his size than I'm your size. And it kind of inspires me to want to get in the ring and do something. I'm 30. I just turned 35. Not young by any means. Not young by any means.
Yeah.
But I look at it and I'm like, he inspires me to want to do something like that. And then I remember I'm probably a bigger pussy than most people. So this is my gig. But I do want to get involved in one way or another when it comes to stuff you guys do. Don't know where that'll take me yet. That's why I love doing this, because I get to learn and just listen and kind of nitpick people's brains.
Just be a sponge.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I do have another series that's called Spotlight with Shadow, and I've interviewed guys like Alex Kane. I've talked to Jimmy Corderas. Like, just those two alone, guy like Alex Kane, he's doing what he is in MLW. I don't know if he's still there. But Jimmy Corderas, guy's been around forever. Yeah. Literally was in the ring when Owen died. Like, so what's your summer looking like, man? You got plans with the wife and stuff? Are you going on vacations? You traveling the world? What's going on?
Yeah. Gonna do probably another trip to Orlando at least in early July. Plenty of dates through the summer through Hybrid Championship Wrestling. We'll be in Dunnville, Ontario, May 30th and 31st, obviously after the show, for Effie in the Middle of Nowhere. I have a bunch of dates with them, I think in late July, and then a handful in August. But yeah, I mean, we have their tag team belts. I know that there's a pending announcement or a series of shows that have yet to be announced that might be by the time this airs, that you'll see me in. And a handful of other guys from Pittsburgh that are becoming familiar faces in Canada.
Now, you know as well as I do, Canadian Deathmatch is just over a year old at this point. I personally think they're changing the game up here for a lot of, not even just deathmatch, but independent wrestling. I think they've done something to spark the interest again in Ontario, at least. Because, I mean, there's many different areas that have had it, but like suddenly there's a resurgence again.
Yeah, there's a certain emotion that's tied along with it. I've said it to Sean, Maddie, and all the CDM guys, is that like, you guys have something special here. Embrace it, appreciate it, and do your best to continue to cultivate, the success that they're having. Listen to your fans. That's the best and only feedback that you should be listening to. And like, I say the same thing as a wrestler, when I'm out there, I'm listening to the fans, It's been an incredible experience. You know, I've been on 2 shows with them. They were part of that was my international debut. My first match in Canada was for Canadian Deathmatch against Wade Allen at the Making a Scene show. So it's an honor and a privilege to be involved in the areas that I have been. I think that there's a really, really cool energy coming around from bringing in guys from outside of the Ontario scene that kind of give it a new injection of life, new stories to tell, new angles to really, dive into and explore. So yeah, it's fucking great. I love coming to Canada, and I love the guys that I'm working with.
Like I started paying attention to the indie circuit about 2.5 years ago. Obviously, I'm like one of the WWE, it's all in. But then I started to fall out and get jaded with it, and I still am to this day. Like, it is what it is. That's why I stopped talking about it. But like, I'm watching these little indies around, and I've gone up to North Bay for Northland Wrestling. I pay attention to what CWE is doing. Now you got Canadian Deathmatch on the scene, which is opening eyes for a lot of things. Yes, it's gore. Yes, it's blood. But I mean, there's more to it that not many people are realizing.
Yeah.
Like you said, you're bringing in fresh injections to it. Like, and then there's the hybrid up here, I think you were saying.
Hybrid Championship Wrestling, yeah. All over.
I'm just learning about all these different companies, right? Like I'm trying to expand my horizons and support where I can and learn who I can. And like you, I'm learning about people. And then I can help push, and maybe I introduce you to an audience that never knew who the hell you were either. And then all of a sudden now you got some more fans, or maybe you got some more haters. I don't know. But like,
I welcome it. You know, bring it all, the good and bad.
Like my goal, this entire series is all deathmatch wrestlers, and it's all thanks to, and it's sponsored in part by Canadian Deathmatch, because I believe in what their vision is, and I want to help. And I'm not making money from them doing this. This is all me wanting to give back to them, because they've given me opportunities like this where I get to talk to you, because without them, I don't meet you. I don't get to talk to you. I don't get to talk to Brett. I don't get to talk to Wade. I think it's just it's thankful.
Yeah.
So I am going to wrap it up there. I do want to have you back on in the near future to be on a Spotlight with Shadow, or go more in depth and all that. But before I leave, is there anything you want to say to Canadian Deathmatch or anybody that you got over the summer?
Yeah, I mean, Canadian Deathmatch, I may have lost to Matt Cash in the first round, the semifinal of the Crazy 8 tournament. I know for a fact he wasn't 100% going to that final, and it definitely showed. And that's what happens when you enter into a war with KC War. You are not the same whenever you exit, and it doesn't matter what the result is. So Canadian Deathmatch, bring on your next opponent for me. I already had my rematch with Matt, and I retained the 880 hardcore title. It was, again, one of the hardest hitting matches that I've ever had, but what matters is who ends up walking out on top. That was me. 880 hardcore title is still mine, and that means I need my next challenger for Canada. Doesn't matter if it's singles or if you put us in a tag match with the Hybrid Championship Tag Team 4th line. We are the tag team champions, Brandon St. James and I. We have a reputation in Canada. So then you put the two of us together. Come on. There's going to be more belts coming to the 4th line. Doesn't matter if it's singles, tags, whatever.
Ladies and gentlemen, make sure if you're in the Pittsburgh area, Pennsylvania area, or anywhere in the area of this man right here, you go, you show him love, you show him hate, you make sure you buy his merch, or you don't and spit in his face. But if he punches you, that's on you. Remember, he's a hockey player. He'll probably knock you out. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been this has been Shadowsphere, and it's been sponsored part by Canadian Deathmatch. And thank you. Good night.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Welcome to the Shadowsphere.